She broke every barrier to earn her place. But then her own CEO, a man just like her, tried to take it all away. This is not just a story about racism. It's about betrayal, strength, and walking out with your dignity. Make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss stories like this one. For the last 3 years, Simone Carter had held the same seat, by the window on the 21st floor, overlooking downtown Atlanta. Her workspace was always neat. Her inbox was never backed up, and everyone, from interns to upper management, knew. If you wanted something done, and done right, you went to Simone. At 28, she wasn't just respected, she was admired. She didn't come from privilege. She didn't have fancy connections. She'd fought tooth and nail for her role as senior operations analyst in one of the most competitive tech firms in the Southeast. Raised by a single mother in a neighborhood most people only knew from headlines, Simone had built herself from grit, focus, and sleepless nights. And she never forgot that. The office buzzed like usual that Monday morning, but something felt different. Simone walked past the reception desk and noticed a security guard she didn't recognize. A man in a black suit stood beside him, scanning badges. Inside, the chatter was low but constant. New CEO starts today. Flew in from Europe. Hired straight from the London branch. Simone sipped her coffee quietly at her desk, pretending not to listen, but she caught the rest. He's supposed to be intense. No nonsense. Some say cold. By noon, an all-hands meeting was scheduled. The invitation came from CEO office. The company auditorium filled fast. Simone took her usual seat near the front, flanked by her co-workers, Marcus from marketing, Priya from data science, and her close friend Kanisha from legal. Everyone murmured, waiting. Then the lights dimmed. A tall man in a navy blue suit walked onto the stage. He moved with sharpness, not arrogance, but precision, like he'd rehearsed every step. Dark-skinned, bald, with a British accent so crisp it almost sounded rehearsed. Good afternoon. My name is Idris Langston, and as of this morning, I am your new Chief Executive Officer. Applause. He waited for it to end before continuing. Some of you may know me from the London office. If you don't, that's fine. You'll know me soon enough. I believe in systems, in accountability, in excellence. Titles don't impress me. Numbers do. Simone sat straighter. Something about the way he said titles. He wasn't smiling. I'm here to take this company to a level it's never reached. That means changes. Big ones. Starting immediately. People exchanged glances. Simone caught Kanisha's eye. They both knew. Things were about to shift. Over the next few days, the shift came quickly. Departments were restructured. Managers shuffled. Job descriptions rewritten. Simone's team was untouched, for now, but the pressure in the building was growing. Idris moved through the office like a shadow. No one dared joke in the halls anymore. Even breakroom conversations slowed when he walked by. He'd nod at Simone, sometimes, but his eyes never lingered. Not like other executives, who'd come to her for insight or advice. He never asked questions, only observed. Then came the Thursday team review. Every quarter, Simone's department presented performance metrics. She led the presentation, as always, with clean slides and exact numbers. Everyone watched, impressed. Even the CFO whispered, "That's gold," during the financial section. When she finished, the room applauded. Idris, seated at the head of the table, tapped his pen once and said, "Interesting. You've clearly memorized your metrics. But how much of it is real performance, and how much is just confidence?" The room went silent. Simone blinked. "I'm not sure I understand the question. You sound polished. But I wonder if your results are yours, or simply inherited from a system that protects certain people." There was a beat of stunned silence. Kanisha opened her mouth to respond, but Simone raised a hand gently. Her voice was calm. "With respect, sir, I've led this team through 5 cycles. Every major operational breakthrough in the last 18 months is documented under my initiatives." "Then you won't mind an audit," Idris replied smoothly. "Effective today." Gasps echoed. Audits weren't normal, not unless someone was suspected of mishandling data or resources. Simone didn't flinch, but she felt something cold settle into her spine. That night, she stayed late in the office, reviewing every report, rechecking every formula, screenshotting records of her work. She knew what this was. He wasn't looking for errors. He was looking for a crack. And if he couldn't find one, he'd try to make one. Simone arrived at the office before sunrise. She hadn't slept. Her inbox was already flooded with messages from the internal audit team. They were requesting access to files, historical logs, private notes, even Slack conversations from over a year ago. It was invasive. It was excessive. And it was personal. The email was signed not by the compliance officer, but directly by Idris Langston. By 9 a.m., she was seated in a cramped glass meeting room with two analysts she'd never met before. They barely looked her in the eye. "We're not accusing you of anything, Ms. Carter," one of them said, adjusting his glasses. "This is just standard procedure." Simone smiled tightly. "Except it's not. You've never audited any other department lead mid-cycle." The man hesitated. "We were instructed to follow the CEO's directive." That told her everything. At lunch, Kenesha found her staring into a black coffee. "You okay?" she asked gently. Simone nodded, but didn't speak. Kenesha lowered her voice. "Look, everyone sees what's happening. He's trying to humiliate you, control you. That man walked in here with something to prove." Simone's jaw tensed. "He's trying to rewrite my value in this place. Like all the years I bled for this company mean nothing. You're more respected than him," Kenesha said flatly. "And he knows it." By Friday, the entire office felt different. People no longer approached Simone for guidance. Some barely made eye contact. They were afraid of being seen as aligned with her, afraid of becoming targets themselves. Even Marcus, who once laughed with her daily, now responded with short nods and polite smiles. She had become radioactive, not because she did something wrong, but because someone in power said she might have. The audit dragged into the next week. Hours of meetings, questions designed to trip her up, probing about decisions she'd made years ago. Still, she held firm. No cracks, no errors. Her work was bulletproof. And deep down, she knew Idris saw that. That's what enraged him most. On Wednesday afternoon, as the audit was finally wrapping, Simone was called into Idris's office. It was her first time sitting across from him alone. The room was pristine. No personal photos. No warmth. He looked at her like a challenge, like a threat. "The auditors found no misconduct," he said, not even pretending to sound disappointed. "I'm aware," she replied, keeping her posture steady. He leaned forward, voice cool. "You're competent, Miss Carter. I'll give you that. But this company needs more than competence. It needs loyalty." Simone tilted her head. "You questioning my loyalty because I refuse to bend to your ego?" His smile thinned. "I'm questioning whether someone like you can work under someone like me." There it was. The real message. He wasn't threatened by her mistakes. He was threatened by her presence. Then he slid a folder across the desk. "Two options," he said. "Sign the new agreement. Effective immediately, you'll report directly to me. Adhere to all operational changes without resistance, or you resign." Today, Simone opened the folder. The agreement stripped her of decision-making power, demoted her team, made her work subject to weekly approval by Idris himself. It wasn't a proposal. It was a leash. She looked up. His eyes burned with a quiet challenge. "Bend or break." Simone stood slowly, folded the folder shut, and said evenly, "You don't scare me." "You should be," he replied. "People like you usually don't survive in my system." Simone smiled faintly. "Then I guess I'll have to redesign the system." And with that, she walked out, not broken. Not yet. The following morning, Simone's inbox flooded with emails, some curt, others borderline hostile. Idris's influence was seeping deeper, and many coworkers were quick to distance themselves. Simone felt the weight of isolation, but she refused to let it define her. She called a meeting with her closest allies, Kenesha, Marcus, and Priya. "We need to stand firm," Simone said, her voice steady despite the storm around her. "This isn't just about me. It's about the culture we want here." Kenesha nodded, determination in her eyes. "He's trying to rewrite the rules. We can't let him." Marcus added, "People are scared. But fear only gives him power." Priya leaned forward. "We document everything. Every incident. Every order that crosses the line." Simone agreed. "If he wants a fight, we'll give him one, with facts." That week, Simone began to carefully log every interaction with Idris and any incidents of discriminatory behavior she observed. It wasn't easy. Some days she wanted to scream, to quit, to run far away. But every time she felt weak, she reminded herself why she fought. Not just for herself, but for every woman and man who had been silenced or pushed out. Meanwhile, Idris's demeanor grew colder. Meetings became battlegrounds. He interrupted Simone openly, dismissed her ideas, and even questioned her competence in front of the team. One day, in a tense budget meeting, Simone presented a proposal with detailed projections. Idris cut her off mid-sentence. "This is not what we need," he said sharply. "We need innovation, not more numbers." Simone held his gaze. Innovation requires data. Without it, it's just guesswork. A hush fell over the room. Idris's jaw tightened. He didn't respond. Rumors began to circulate. Some whispered that Simone was being difficult. Others claimed she was resisting necessary changes. Simone knew the truth. Idris was trying to break her. But she wouldn't give him that satisfaction. One evening, after another long day, Simone sat alone in the office kitchen. Kanisha joined her, handing over 2 cups of tea. "You okay?" she asked softly. Simone sighed. "I'm tired. But I'm not done." Kanisha smiled. "Neither am I." Days turned into weeks, and the atmosphere in the office grew increasingly tense. Idris's thinly veiled disdain began to surface more openly. One Monday morning, Simone arrived early to find an email from Idris waiting in her inbox. Subject: Team meeting, mandatory attendance. The message was curt and formal. No details, no agenda. At 10 a.m. sharp, the entire department gathered in the conference room, whispering nervously. Idris entered, his face unreadable. He began with a rehearsed tone. "We've been underperforming, and I need to address certain issues openly." His eyes fixed on Simone. Some people believe they're above the rules. That respect is a given, not earned. Simone felt every eye in the room turn to her. Idris continued. "This company demands excellence. No exceptions. Anyone unwilling to comply will be shown the door." The room was silent. Simone's heart pounded, but she met his gaze steadily. After the meeting, whispers swirled like a storm. Simone's phone buzzed with texts from concerned colleagues. One message from a junior analyst read, "Idris is targeting you. Stay strong." But there was no room for weakness. Simone knew the fight was becoming personal. Later that day, Idris cornered Simone in the elevator. His voice was low, but every word cut like a blade. "You're smart. Too smart for your own good. But intelligence without loyalty is useless." Simone's breath hitched, but she held her ground. "I'm loyal to this company, and the people who make it run, not to intimidation or fear." He smiled thinly. "We'll see how long you last." That evening, Simone sat alone in her apartment, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The weight of the day pressed down, but something deeper stirred within her. She wasn't just fighting for a job. She was fighting for her dignity. The next morning, she walked into the office with renewed resolve. Her voice was steady in the weekly staff meeting. Respect isn't given based on fear. It's earned through integrity and action. Some colleagues nodded. Others stayed silent. But for the first time, Simone felt the tide beginning to turn. Simone began to notice things. Emails getting lost. Meeting invites mysteriously excluding her. Reports she authored being sent out under someone else's name. The small cuts that add up, death by 1,000 paper cuts. It wasn't just hostility from Idris anymore. It was sabotage. And worse, it was coordinated. One afternoon, Priya pulled Simone aside near the stairwell. She looked nervous, glancing around before speaking. "They're watching your every move. Not just him, a few others too. People who want to get close to him. They think if they help push you out, they'll earn favor." Simone wasn't surprised. "Climbers," she muttered. Priya nodded. "You're not paranoid. You're being targeted." Later that day, Simone found her access to the internal data dashboard revoked. She emailed IT. They said it was a technical glitch. But she'd heard that excuse before. When she called to follow up, the technician whispered, "I was told not to prioritize your ticket. Off the record, you didn't hear that from me." That night, Simone opened her personal laptop and began building a backup. Emails, memos, Slack threads, project files. She archived everything. This was bigger than her pride now. It was about proof. If she was going down, she wasn't going quietly. The next morning, Idris held another meeting. This one for high-potential employees. Simone wasn't invited. Kanisha, however, was. When she returned, she looked troubled. "He's rewriting the org chart," she told Simone. "He's creating a new position over your team. Said it's to streamline oversight." Simone's jaw clenched. "He's building a cage." Kanisha looked her in the eyes. "Then we break out." As the week wore on, the emotional weight thickened. Simone began recording voice memos after every major conversation, documenting tone, wording, pauses. It felt paranoid, but necessary. She wasn't just trying to save her job anymore. She was building a case. On Friday afternoon, she received a calendar invite. Performance review with CEO. Monday at 9 a.m. No HR present. No agenda. Just her and him. Simone stared at the screen for a long moment, then clicked accept. She leaned back, whispered to herself, "Let's see what you really want, Idris." Monday, 8:57 a.m. Simone stood outside Idris's glass-walled office, her back straight, palms steady despite the chill in her chest. She wore a navy blue blazer, not as a power move, but as armor. Her phone, already recording, was tucked in her blazer pocket. She knocked once. "Come in," Idris called without looking up. She stepped inside. He didn't offer a seat, didn't offer coffee, just gestured to the chair in front of his desk without a word. She sat. He clicked his pen. Once. Twice. "You've been here almost 4 years," he began. "You've built quite a name for yourself." Simone stayed silent. But success can be dangerous when it becomes entitlement. "You've grown, resistant, disruptive." Simone narrowed her eyes. "You mean I've refused to be disrespected?" He smiled without humor. "Let me be clear. This isn't Europe versus America or male versus female. It's about vision. You've chosen to be in the way." She leaned forward, calm but firm. "No, I've chosen not to be walked over." He tossed a thick envelope onto the desk. "You have until Friday to make a decision. You can sign this and step down gracefully, with severance. Or, we'll begin a performance-based termination process." Simone didn't touch the envelope. "Why are you so threatened by me, Idris?" "I'm not threatened," he replied coldly. "I'm bored. Bored of ego masquerading as strength. You were useful, once." That last word stung more than she expected. But she kept her composure. "You want me gone because you can't control me." "I want you gone," he said quietly, "because you don't know your place." Silence. It stretched long and sharp between them. Then Simone stood. "You're right. I don't know my place. Because it's not under your boot." She walked out. Back at her desk, Simone stared at the envelope in her hands. By now, most people in the office had heard rumors. Some watched her with sympathy, others with relief, as if her removal meant their own survival. Kanisha came by, closed the office door behind her. "You okay?" "He gave me until Friday," Simone said flatly, "to choose between leaving with hush money or being dragged out." Kanisha sat beside her. "If you fight, it's going to get ugly." Simone nodded. "Good. He should have picked someone easier to break." That night, Simone called her older cousin, a labor rights attorney. They talked for 2 hours. By the end of the call, Simone had a plan. Not revenge, but defense. She wasn't trying to burn the company down. She was trying to survive with her dignity. She looked around her small apartment, filled with hard-earned comfort. Then she opened her laptop and typed, "To whom it may concern, this is a formal record of repeated discriminatory actions within the executive leadership of..." She paused, then kept writing. Simone didn't sleep much that week. Each night was a blur of emails, legal templates, screen recordings, and scanned files. Her cousin, Darnell, calm, methodical, and razor-sharp, coached her through every step. "Document everything," he said. "Not just the big stuff. The comments. The silences. The meetings he walks into just to stare you down. It matters." By Tuesday night, Simone had compiled a 37-page dossier. It wasn't just a defense. It was a story. Of control. Of erasure. Of resistance. At work, the pressure only escalated. Idris didn't speak to her directly. He didn't have to. HR began randomly checking in. Her new responsibilities, handed down with no explanation, were deliberately vague and nearly impossible to complete on schedule. But Simone saw the pattern. Make her fail, then call it underperformance. Classic. She smiled to herself. Not today. Priya quietly passed her a flash drive in the elevator. "From the last strategy call," she whispered. "He deleted the Zoom recording. But I saved it." Simone blinked. "Why?" "Because I heard what he said when you logged off." Simone hesitated. "What?" He said. "She's going to crack soon. American women always think they're tougher than they are." Simone clenched her jaw. "Thank you." Priya nodded. "Don't let him win." On Thursday afternoon, Simone requested a formal meeting with HR. She brought a physical copy of her file, cleanly organized, tabbed, and time-stamped. The HR rep, a soft-spoken white woman named Karen, yes, really, smiled nervously. Let me be clear, Simone said. I am not making accusations lightly, but I will not be gaslit out of my own reality. She slid the folder across the desk. If you proceed with this termination, I will file a federal EOC complaint, and I will go public. Karen leafed through a few pages. Her face slowly shifted. She wasn't used to employees coming armed with this kind of clarity. After the meeting, Simone walked out with her head high. For the first time in weeks, she felt control tightening back into her grip. Not over the company, not over Idris, but over herself. That night, she got an email. Subject, meeting request, CEO plus HR plus legal. Time, Friday, 10 a.m. No explanation, just tension. Simone stared at it for a moment, then calmly replied, confirmed. I will be attending with legal representation. Friday, 9:58 a.m. Simone stood outside the conference room, a leather folder tucked under her arm and calm in her chest like steel. She wasn't alone. Next to her stood Darnell, her cousin, lawyer, and quiet hurricane in a three-piece suit. He gave her a nod. We don't yell, he said calmly. We document. We correct. And we let them expose themselves. She exhaled slowly. Let's go. Inside the room sat Idris, 2 HR reps, and a corporate attorney from the company's legal team. All of them looked surprised to see Simone wasn't alone. No one spoke at first. Idris folded his arms. Karen from HR cleared her throat. Simone, thank you for coming. We wanted to follow up regarding your performance and future with the company. Darnell didn't wait. Before we begin, please note that this meeting is being documented. Ms. Carter has formally filed a timeline of discriminatory practices within this company, and we are prepared to escalate to federal and public channels if necessary. Dead silence. Then Idris chuckled quietly, just once. I see we've escalated. Simone met his eyes. You started the fire. I just stopped pretending not to smell the smoke. Karen shifted nervously, glancing through the folder Simone had submitted. She'd clearly read it now, or at least enough to know how serious it was. Some of the claims here are troubling, she admitted. They're not claims, Darnell said evenly. They're records, and they show a pattern of targeted behavior, including racially coded language, unlawful changes in responsibility, and psychological manipulation meant to isolate and discredit a respected employee. The room stayed still. Idris didn't blink. So what's your ask? He said finally. Our ask, Simone said, voice steady, isn't silence money. It's accountability. Public or internal, your choice. Darnell added, we're open to mediation. But make no mistake, we're prepared to fight. After 20 minutes of tense discussion, the company's attorney asked for a break. When they returned, Idris was gone, sent out to allow room for resolution. Simone didn't smile, but she felt a quiet satisfaction. The man who tried to destroy her couldn't even stay in the room while she defended herself. By the end of the hour, the company offered a resolution. Simone would not be terminated. Her role would be formally protected under the company's Diversity Accountability Initiative, a program they'd previously shelved. She would report directly to a neutral executive, not Idris. They also offered her a public commendation for her resilience and leadership under pressure. She didn't care about the plaque, but she accepted the terms, and she watched their eyes as they realized. They hadn't broken her. They had reinforced her. As she walked out of the building, Darnell nudged her. You still want to work here? Simone thought for a second. No, but I want to leave on my terms. Not his. The next Monday, Simone walked into the office for what she already knew would be her final stretch. Not because she lost, but because she had outgrown the fight. People looked at her differently now, some with respect, others with quiet unease. She didn't need their validation. What she needed was closure. Kenesha greeted her with a soft hug. They're still pretending it never happened, she said under her breath. Of course, Simone replied. That's how corporate shame works, silence dressed as professionalism. Kenesha glanced around. What now? Simone smiled faintly. Now I finish strong. And then I go build something that isn't trying to erase people like me. Over the next few days, Simone documented every part of her transition plan. She trained her replacement, gave thoughtful feedback, and answered every question with clarity. No one could say she left bitter, only brilliant. On her final day, Idris didn't show up. Not a glance, not a word. Simone didn't expect one, didn't want one. What mattered was the look on the faces of her team when she stood up in the break room and said quietly, "This place tried to make me smaller, but I leave bigger than I came." Kanisha teared up. Marcus clapped. Priya said, "Go lead somewhere that deserves you." That night, Simone sat alone on her couch with a glass of wine and her laptop open. She clicked publish on a post she had written weeks earlier, but waited until now to release. Title: What Power Looks Like in Silence. She didn't name names, but she named patterns. She named experiences. She named herself. By morning, the post had gone viral. Thousands of comments. People sharing their own stories. Thanking her for the honesty, for the bravery, for saying what so many couldn't. Simone didn't reply to any of them. She just read, quietly, letting it all land. Simone stood at the corner of a new building downtown. It was quiet, with sunlight pouring through tall windows and the smell of fresh paint still lingering in the air. A month had passed since she left the company, and she hadn't looked back. Not once. With the severance she had negotiated and a small grant she'd won after her viral post inspired a national conversation, she launched her own venture, a mentorship and consulting firm focused on supporting Black women in corporate environments. Not just surviving, but thriving. She named it on her terms. Because that's how she left. And that's how she would live. Her first client was a mid-sized tech firm with a female founder who said, "I don't want to fix people. I want to fix systems." Simone smiled. Then we're speaking the same language. Some nights, she still felt the echoes of that conference room. The silence, the veiled threats, the pressure to fold. But they didn't haunt her anymore. They reminded her what she was capable of. At an industry panel 6 months later, she sat beside 3 other Black women, all senior leaders in their fields. When it was Simone's turn to speak, the moderator asked, "What advice would you give to someone being quietly pushed out, like you were?" Simone took a moment, then said, loud and clear, "If you're being erased, write yourself back in, with bold ink. And don't wait for anyone to hand you a seat. Build your own table." Applause. That night, she walked home through the city, her curls bouncing in the wind, her shoulders light. She paused at a crosswalk and caught her reflection in a shop window. Not tired, not scared, not bitter, just herself. They clinked their cups gently. Outside the window, city lights shimmered, a reminder that the world was bigger than this office, bigger than this fight. But here, now, Simone made her choice. To stand tall, to resist, and to show that respect wasn't given, it was earned.